topic is losing gracefully. And you know what? As a professional speaker, the truth of the matter is, I spend a lot more time losing opportunities than I do gaining them. There are just so many speakers on the market, there's lots of competition, and it's such a privilege to even be in the game, to be a part of it. But I just thought, I got news. I was really excited. A potential client got news today. I didn't get the gig. Of course, that sucks. And it happens a lot, but I've talked with people for years who are like, oh, I lost this deal or whatever. And it used to really bother me. I mean, of course I'm disappointed. Please don't get me wrong. But um, I think there are a few lessons that we can learn from it and sort of how I approach it so that it doesn't really get me off track. So those are the thoughts today. And I made a few notes. So let me just, let's talk about this. So first thing is, yes, disappointing. We got to feel the feels. I'm all about the feeling the feels, right? Actually, tomorrow we might be doing feeling the worst emotions uh, as a topic, but I don't know what tomorrow's. We'll think about tomorrow's topic tomorrow. But that disappointment, but name it, right? So what part of being disappointed am I? So did I not do a great job in the sales process? Did I screw up the sales meeting? I might have been a little bit all over the place in looking back at this particular example. Um, there are, so what am I disappointed about? Because that's really important, because then you can process it. If you don't identify the feelings you have, then you aren't going to be able to process them effectively. And hello, everyone. Excited to be here with you. Amanda, thank you very much for the share. I've got my notes up on Facebook. If you've ever lost something and have some ideas to share, please put it in the comments. You're more than welcome to, and I will pull up the comments as they come in on LinkedIn, because that's how I know how to get them. So yeah, so first thing, naming the emotion. Because here's the risk if we don't, is that when we lose a deal, and no matter what kind of sales you're in, you've got deals, they just go sideways. They don't, no fault of your own. You just weren't the right fit for that particular situation. Hi, Ramon. Nice to have you here. And Greg, awesome to have you here as well. And sometimes, but here's the thing, if we don't name that emotion, what can happen is we think that the losing the deal, that failure, if we're going to call it failure, is means you're a failure. Do you know what I mean? How these emotions can get really muddled together, really muddled together. Oh, Lauren, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm using live captioning via Chrome, so that works for me. Fantastic. I am so grateful to hear that. And if you want to send me a note on how that works, then I can recommend that to others and be sure that all of my meetings are accessible, because I know it's important that I'm always being articulate in my mouth so you can read lips too. So thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you. Okay, so understanding where the emotion is tied to, because if we just let it fester and not identify it exceptionally well, then what can happen is we can feel like we're the failure, as opposed to we failed on this particular gig. Okay, so that is definitely one thing. Second thing is to be really, really gracious about it. So anytime I hear, first of all, any prospect that sends me a note and just doesn't ignore, the fact that they'd held something on my calendar, or that we had a meeting, but they send a note and say, hey, listen, not going to work out with this theme or for this event, but let's definitely keep in touch for the future. My immediate reaction is, first of all, mad levels of respect for that person, because there's so many people who are on the buying side who choose not to acknowledge the fact that somebody, especially a small business owner, is waiting for an answer, right? And they may be counting on that. So double check. Number one, super, super love this prospect and hope to get to work with them in the future. But it's really about being gracious and saying, well, first of all, I congratulated them on their choice. I'm like, excellent person, wonderful choice, definitely makes sense, and certainly would love to work with you in the future. So I think that being gracious is so critical to managing the future relationship, because here's the thing, depending on what type of industry you're in, there are going to be future opportunities for that person, right? Potentially, or they may go to another company, or they may have another program, right? Where you really are a great fit. So thinking about that. And I love this, Ramon. If you name it, you can tame it. Bang on, exactly, because that is such a critical thing, to name the emotion and what it's really about. Okay, so being gracious, responding in a very positive way. So you never want to make somebody feel like they're an idiot, for not choosing you. I think that's really important. Although I've seen it happen where people are like, oh, well, then obviously you don't want the best. Well, no, obviously you made a decision, so I'm going to compliment them on that decision generally, unless I don't think I'd ever lose out to somebody who I didn't think was really going to be um, a great option, right? So that is important, because it's not about this deal, it's about setting yourself up for future possibilities. And I think that's where it even sometimes, oh, and in talking with colleagues over the years and different sales reps and teams that I've worked with, it's when you lose it to just sort of ignore it, right? And not just be like, oh, okay, that's great, and then forget about it and never respond. Whereas I think the answer is you want to go right at it and be like, absolutely, good job. Next time, I hope there's an opportunity for you and I to work together. Please keep me in mind and let's keep in touch, right? Because you never want to leave somebody with sour grapes in their mouth, or being like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful we didn't go with Allison. She's a real biatch. Ramon's got some happy faces here for me. Thank you. Okay, so that is great. So now what do you do to make it better for the next time? So number one, you want to think, and I'll reposition a loss in my mind, because I don't want to hold on to it so that it discourages me to go out for the future, right? I mean, that's every salesperson has to go through this. And so one of the things I'll do is say, okay, if I know who actually did win the contract and I know what the situation is, then if I'm objective, is the other person a better fit? Okay, great. And if the person is a better fit, then what am I going to do about that? You can't, right? It's like if you're selling flooring and somebody wants gray flooring, but you only have black flooring, well, you're not going to win, right? Like, it just doesn't work. It's just, flooring is a little bit less emotional than if you're a consultant or a speaker or a coach who is losing out, right? Of course, because it's easier to take it personally. But objectively looking and saying, am I a really good fit for that? Yes, I would be. And this other person is an incredible fit as well. Just completely different vibe. Okay. So that is good. And then looking at it and saying, what can I learn from this experience, and how can I do better in the future? And I think one of the deciding factors, because I lose to this person quite a bit, just for the record, two people in my industry as a speaker of resilience. Both of them are doctors, and we often are interviewed, and that's fine, but I can't compete with the doctor. So people are really impressed by doctor as opposed to my style, and this is where you have to know your value. So looking and saying, okay, what would I bring to the table? Well, I'm going to bring story and experience and humor and and the realness of, Allie G, here I am. And that doesn't fit for every client. They maybe want that doctor and the research and the academia, and like, all the power to them. I'm not going to judge that, right? It's just, what is the better fit? And so looking at that and deciding, how do I compete with that? Well, that one I can't compete with, the whole doctor thing. But could I be better at articulating my value? Could I have been more structured in the actual sales call? All of those pieces. So you want to actually look at the process to decide, if I'm going to lose this, how do I minimize the risk for losing it in the future? Okay, so that's another piece, I think, that really helps me. And then the biggest issue, or the biggest help, is to focus on the wins that you do have. Because so often when we lose a deal, when we lose an opportunity that we were really excited about, it's very easy to own that and think, nobody likes me, everybody hates me. Go into the garden to eat some worms. Yeah. Remember that as a child? I sang it a lot for the record. But you got to focus on the wins. You got to be like, okay, you know what? But I've got this gig and this thing and this gig coming up. And oh my God, how blessed am I to have that opportunity, even though I lost that one. Okay. So even for yourself, just looking at it and saying, what are the wins that I could focus on right now to not take this on too much. So there we go. There are my thoughts. My thoughts on, I love it. Thank you, Harrison. Rise and shine. It's Allison time. Oh my goodness. That should be the, that could be our theme song for the lockdown lift ups. Here's the question. Will I continue the lockdown lift up after the lockdown? And then we'll just have to have rise and shine. It's Allison time right there. Thanks, Harrison. Okay, here's Greg. I have found that reaching out with grace and actually asking what influenced their decision to go another route provides closure. Yes, and actually I did that this morning as well. So I'm on the same page as you. And this is where it's like, just don't leave it hanging, right? Like, because it's all about how you respond in the tough times is going to set up how the opinion people have of you in the good times. And so going back, asking that question, I said, oh, that's great. I'll tell you exactly what I said. Let's say this. And if she's watching, she won't be, I'm not telling you what company it was or who it was. Oh my gosh, a lot of emails today. I wrote, thank you for letting me know. Definitely am open to working with you in the future when it makes sense. She asked if I had any questions. Is it just that it wasn't a right fit, or is there anything I could do in the future to make the fit seem more logical? Also, I'm curious, who is the chosen speaker if you're open to sharing? And she wrote me back a really beautiful note and told me who it was. And I wrote, so this is the losing gracefully part. Oh, she is an excellent choice. We are completely different vibes and outcomes, so that absolutely makes sense. So you know what? That's me in the nutshell, and that's my way of, I guess I'd say, losing gracefully. But I think with that conversation, there is absolutely no reason that I think this person would not hire me in the future, right? Whereas I know sometimes that's not always the case. Yes. Well, Lauren, absolutely correct. Being open-minded and thank the person for their candor, which is so critical, because I think sometimes the reason why in the speaking industry and Lauren is someone who would know this as well, right? From being in, we met actually through an organization, I think it was through CAPS, right? Lauren, you can put that in the chat, through our CAPS organization. And, they're all of us. And I'm celebrating when other people get gigs. Like, it doesn't always have to be me. Goodness knows it's not always me. God, I wish it was. I wish I was speaking 1,000 times a year. I would just be so fulfilled. I might actually have a really hard voice if I did that many gigs a year, but it would be good to do a lot more. Anyway, I digress. Yes. So Lauren has said, yes, it was CAPS. So I think and this is part of the process. And, sometimes people will say to me, you're so open and vulnerable on your lives and all of my videos. And the truth is I am, because, well, obviously I'm telling you, I created a topic around an experience of losing a gig that I really, really wanted. Right. And I think sometimes people might be like, well, don't admit in public that you lost because it may not make you look that cool. Well, if you want my coolness, go look at the stuff I have won. Right. But I think that every one of us goes through these dips. Every one of us goes through difficult times. And if people aren't showing up and being honest about it, then you end up suffering in silence and by yourself and thinking you're the only one who's not ever had a no. I don't know a person in sales who hasn't, but I know a lot of people in sales who try to pretend like they never lose. And that might be an attitude. That might be a tactic. That might be a brand alignment that they're absolutely choosing. For me, it's like, yeah, I'm human. I make mistakes. It's like if ever I do something, that's accidentally publicly humiliating, I can be like, yeah, and look at my life. I have completely told I'm a flawed human being the whole way through. I'm like, what do people want from me? All right. There are no losses that may work out in the future, and you've created brand awareness. Exactly. It's about what's going to happen in the future. And I think if we're not graceful about how we transform from prospect to lost contract, and then future prospect again, if we're not trying to loop in the future prospect again, then we are definitely missing out on opportunity. So if you are, for whatever reason, losing today on a gig, on a deal, something's gone sideways, I just want you to know I see you. It is okay. It does not mean that you are flawed. It means that that wasn't the right fit for you. And you can objectively look at it and be like, yeah, I can see why. Or maybe you're like, I really think they made a mistake. And then all the power to them. If they made a mistake, they'll come back to you next time. Here's another comment. It is also an comfortable situation for your contact. Oh yeah, sometimes they are not the final decision maker. And if you have developed a nice rapport, they feel awkward. Be human and authentic. Yes. And it's interesting. So what I was saying before, and I got off in I went in another direction, was I think one of the reasons that people don't tell you you didn't get the gig is because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. Like, people don't like conflict. People don't like going, hi, you're great, and we don't want you. I mean, that's a hard thing to say, but it's worse to leave people hanging. Like, is there anything worse than being ghosted? Right? No. And, calendars, you want to open it up. You cannot fake authenticity. Yes, thank you. You really just can't fake authenticity. I love it. You're absolutely true. And Gord, you're somebody who comments, I think, a few times about my honesty. And I'm really grateful for that because, I am open to showing up and being human. And hopefully that works, for whoever needs it out there. But if you are losing a deal today, that's all right. And then you got to go and just try to get the next one and the next one and the next one, and live your true purpose, live your true value, and show up where you're meant to show up. And hopefully there are people there who are going to, want you. But failure is not, what is that saying? Is not permanent unless you allow it to be. Or something like that. I think I just made that up. I think there are much better phrases for failure. Anyhow, any more comments? Any more thoughts? Anybody want to come on and say hello or give it? Anybody going through something where they're losing right now and they feeling frustrated? Tell you, I'm thinking of you, and I know it can be tough, but this is Resilience 101. And as you know, I do not believe, if you listen to me a lot, I do not believe that resilience is bouncing back, because we can't go back. I can't go back to not getting that particular gig or any other program. I can move forward with the knowledge I have now, doing the best I possibly can with what I have today. Lauren has said, imposter syndrome is such a sad feeling that may adopt unnecessarily. Yes, they do. By showing our flaws and vulnerability, we give others permission to do so. I agree. And actually, Craig Tilford posted, I think it was there's an article on imposter syndrome. Might have been the Harvard Business Review. Maybe it's the New York Times. I'll look it up. A really interesting article around exactly this today. Okay, here we are. Where are his posts? See, got Harvard Business Review talked about disproportionately affects high achievers. So think about that. If you're ever feeling like you're an imposter or something's not working, You're in good company. It's all determination and stay original, 100%. Because I think one of the easy things is when we lose and we look at where our competitors are, is to get really jealous of our competitors. And that's a natural emotion. But what I have found is that whenever that twinge comes up and you start saying, well, why them and not me, that is a trigger for you to go to self-awareness and say, okay, what is this person doing that I'm not doing? Just give me a sec. Oh, okay, we're good. That I feel I want to do, right? And so that also is another way. Hey, listen, I've been rambling for my 20 minutes so far and love having each and every one of you here. I am going to go probably have some news tomorrow. I'll tell more about where I'm going today. But whatever's going on in your life, I hope you're doing great and that this lockdown lift up has given you a little inspiration, even though we were talking about losing gracefully. But to the grace, to the loss, to the wins ahead. Have a beautiful day.